Everybody, welcome to this week's episode of The Lumber Word, episode 131 on the 23rd of July. We're excited to have Russ Taylor from Russ Taylor Global. Russ, you've been on a bunch of times. What's new with you up in the world of BC?
Oh, not too much. I think there's a lot of drama now about, maybe you've heard about this. It's called tariffs. So a lot of
Yeah.
drama on the Canadian side about tariffs
Fake
on the
news,
country,
Russ. That's fake
on
news.
lumber, 232, all this kind of stuff. It's all getting closer, right? So lots of drama.
So is there anything?
The Japanese just cut a sweetheart deal, 15%. I mean, all their stocks are rallying. I mean, that's life is good. Life is good. You just can't. People just need to just don't fight it. Just go with it, right?
Yeah, get a deal so
That's
then
your
you've
best
got
deal and move
certainty,
on. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Russ, what are some new things that we don't know about the old things in the CVD, AD, 232? I talked to somebody this morning. They said that they were told by their broker that it may not come out this week and may be delayed till next week because it's coming into a weekend. What should we know about this going into it?
Yeah, I guess I've heard more confusion than anything else. Same thing that this was supposed to be the week it would get started and then take effect as early as next week. And I'm hearing the same thing. Maybe it's going to get delayed. And then is it just the anti-dumping duty, or I guess it's just the anti-dumping duty because the CVDs was delayed 6 weeks after that. So then there's some talk. Maybe they'll get bundled together and maybe it'll be coming in a couple of weeks. And so there's so many different options out there that I've sort of lost track. But again, uncertainty if you're trying to ship to the US right now from Canada, because you just don't know when the anti-dumping duty is going to kick in, and then eventually the countervailing duty.
Question for the group, besides Charles. Are you getting the phone calls and the emails from Canadian producers saying, hey, we can load these 2 or 3 cars today if you want to take a look at them, or are you not?
Every day. And the ones I don't understand matter where I go like, hey, yeah, we'll take that at, whatever you're asking minus X, which is substantially more than the net mill return would be otherwise. And they say no. And I go, wow.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Right.
So they want to push the price. Of course, every producer wants the prices to go higher. That's just the nature of producers. And yet I did the math yesterday. So if you take an extra 20% and lumber costs $500, that's $100 1,000, right? That's pretty simple math. The exchange rate's 1.37. So that's $137 1,000 Canadian that the mills can play around with here to try to keep their lumber in Canada. And you'll see a lot more Canadian mills directing their lumber in August to Canadian customers, right? Primarily right now, low grade's pretty slow, economy and number 3 and kiln wets and stuff like that. So they'll probably try to keep most of that in Canada. But I think a lot of the higher grade stuff, they're going to start steering back towards Canadian customers as much as they possibly can too. I can see a situation where if you're a Canadian distributor or wholesaler, you're going to have some pretty good, fun, interesting conversations on negotiating price here in the next 30 to 45 days. Whereas guys like you and me, Greg, might not have as much leverage on August 10th as we did on, July 10th. So I'm fascinated to see how it all plays out. In the middle of all this, West Fraser just put a flat 4% raise on their prices for going forward. So how do other mills react to what West Fraser has published?
The issue that, in the East, you have a significant number of mills that are curtailed right now. So they're either not quoting anything, which is what our mills just aren't quoting anything. And when they come back and they start running, and their plan is to come back and run slow and see what the numbers are. And then we've got people that are already, saying, hey, we're curtailed the next 2 weeks and our price is, 13% higher for shipment in August. They're just, hey, I mean, the reality is Canadian mills probably have the lowest dressed inventory that they could possibly have, just like they did last year. And, they're giving themselves all of the opportunity to, not have to absorb the lion's share of the hit to their mill debt. And the most interesting thing to me is Ash and I were looking at, and the reality when we look at the marketplace right now, everything 2x6 spruce, 2x10 spruce, 2x6 hemlock, hem fir, white fir, Doug fir, southern yellow pine, everything are, if not at all-time low relative values to 2x4 spruce, they're pretty close to it. Almost everything across the entire industry breadbasket is undervalued to 2x4 spruce.
Yeah, that's a good point. Greg, we were looking at it. What's the basis now? 2x4 Canadian spruce versus for the CME front month is $70, $60, $70, and on 2x4 white fir and 2x4 coastal to Chicago, it's $100. The basis. So,
what's hemlock and white fir delivered Midwest now, Matt? Right now, what is it? Around 600.
2x4.
Yeah, under 600.
Sold today. Good tallies. Really good tallies at 600, and then like specified, like 16s and 20s. Those are pretty good cars, right? Like half 16, half 20, 610 Chicago, 615 Chicago, that kind of thing. Just a good old random, like a 4.6, 10, 10, 14, that type of a car would probably go for about $590.
And deliverable on the futures contract for September is currently $678.
$88 a thousand.
$80
Sounds like a juicy
$1,000.
trade.
I mean, you would think that there might be some U.S. producers that would look at that and that is a potential opportunity to improve their mill net. You might think that.
J Dog was asking a question. I love the name J Dog because remember J Dog used to work. A guy named J Dog used to work for us.
We've had a lot of dogs working for us, Ash.
So it says, can we just use the same? This may be a good question for you, Russ. Can't we just use the same timeline of years past to peg the date? So the AD and DVD rough and dirty reset every 2 years. Is that right, Russ? Or am I wrong on that?
It's an annual review. It's
Annual.
They do an annual review, and so it's all tied, I think, to the workload of the U.S. Department of Commerce. And
they're very overworked.
Exactly.
Really overworked.
They got a lot on their plate coming in all the time. So I'm sure that's the problem. And so if they're not busy, I guess they could always stick to a date, but it's always tied to their time, their workload, and everything else. And the calculations, no one knows how they are. So that's why they've got the 6 months after the initial ruling to implement it. And then they can delay it another 60 days if they want after that. So it's just, and then this year, just remember the anti-dumping duty was announced first, and then was 6 weeks later, then the countervailing duty initial rate came out. So this year they're staggered unless they want to put them together and bundle them up. And I think that's going to be very ambitious because I think they're quite busy. So I think it's going to be two different duties.
And this is based on the Random Lengths price composite for calendar year 2024.
I think it's
2023.
Yeah, it's like a 2-year trailing thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we can infer, Ashley and I were having this discussion this morning. So we can infer based on that we'll have to look, because I don't think we looked at 23 to 24, Ash. We looked at 24 to 25 year to date, as to whether the potential is that it's a higher CVD and AD next year when they go through this, or whether it might be somewhat lower.
Exactly, because you had a good point today. You think about it, if it's on the composite, well, my God, the low. So basically, the composite takes up southern pine and everything. So, and low grade and the whole cutting profile of a mill, and it's still cheap, right? When you're lumping 2x4 pine into there. So I think, Greg, I'm not going to steal your idea. You said so it's
No,
done.
feel free. Feel free.
I do. I feel like I should
My
credit
idea
you
is your idea.
since you're here. Basically, it's been successful, and if you ask the coalition, no, if you ask the coalition, they'll say it hasn't been successful. But if you ask the coalition, it's been successful in taking production off in Canada and increasing production in North America and U.S. I mean, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're saying. But actually, if I may say, because I've been studying some of the U.S. coalition numbers and so forth, and there's some great tales that are inaccurate, poor data, poor analysis, and so some of the reality is that they talk about Canadian lumber stealing market share in the U.S. Canada's market share has been dropping for 20 years in the U.S. You know, it was up around 35%, 19 through the mid 1990s, and then currently it's around 24%, dropping steadily. And some data suggests it's year to date it's about 21%. So the market share is dropping. Exports to the U.S. are dropping steadily, and U.S. production, especially in the South, it's increased like 4 billion feet since 2016. So the production gains in the U.S. are offsetting Canadian exports, but Canadian exports are really tied to lower production not from duties or trade action, but from lack of timber supply, especially in BC. So that's kind of the real nub of it. And you look at BC production's dropped since 2019. I think it's dropped 48%. So,
okay. So great point. Has the coalition,
Russ, are we setting ourselves up for another super cycle? Can we have another super cycle in lumber in my lifetime in the business?
Yes. Mid 2030s. It's coming.
Ooh,
you're going to hang in there another 10 years. 10 years from now, you mark my words, we'll have a super cycle of some sort.
Not to belabor this. So, okay. So market
right
share,
my prime.
Market share in Canada is down. And so I assume the coalition has recognized that and said that their market share is down and they want to reward Canada for that in the negotiation. And this is just my opinion, obviously. And production in the U.S. is up. And even though every region in the U.S. has their own state, local, federal regulations that cause all their prices to be crazy and different and is a moving target all the time, but yet the price hasn't increased in the U.S. on product. So what am I missing here? Greg said, well, demand dictates that as production increases. And what is demand doing right now?
Precipitously deteriorating every week.
Right.
Honestly.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. You know, we've had some announcements this week, earnings reports from U.S. home builders, and I mean they've really been surprising. When the D.R. Horton came out yesterday talking about, you know, better sales were better than expected, and they're like, hey, it's pedal to the metal. We are going to build, and sell. And you know, Pulte came out with similar, and you know, those home builder stocks, what were they up yesterday at? 5, 10, some of them 10% yesterday.
I know when we looked, they were up significantly. I don't know what they closed the day at, but they definitely were rocking pretty good. And I mean, I think you add to that, if you look at how much these people are taking market share of, I think this is one of those situations where they say we're going to build and sell houses no matter what it takes, right? And that's what I read into it. I could be wrong on that, but that's.
I think the message I got was they're just going to build more affordable homes, and they're going to maximize the volume of affordable homes that they can build and sell to the lower quartile of the entry level housing market. I'm actually kind of surprised that I'm not seeing more of that. Like that's the biggest untapped segment of demand. We talked last week, right, about the average entry age of a home was like 57 years old or something stupid like that. What was it,
No, it's
39?
38.
No,
Yeah,
38.
I'm
first
kidding.
time home buyer was 38. Matt.
Yeah, but still 38, that's a travesty. I mean, if you're an American and you've been raised to believe in this American dream, you're going to go off to college and get a great job, then you got to wait another 17, 18 years to buy your first home? Come on, that's not an American dream. That's a freaking nightmare. So, that's not the story I want my kids to hear, and they're all in college right now, right? I want them those kids, I want them in houses as soon as they possibly can afford it. So, great.
had
If
an
we can get the
existing
builders
wholesale
to
number come out
satisfy
this
that
morning.
untapped demand on the low end, why not? We don't need to build 3,000 square foot, 20,000 square foot lot houses with 20-foot setbacks. You can build them smaller and closer together.
So existing homes did come out, Greg, down 2.7% to a seasonally adjusted rate of 3.9 million.
It was unchanged from last year.
That's unchanged from last year.
Unchanged from last year. 4.7 months supply, and bing, 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 all-time record high price.
Right.
So there's a couple things to dig in on that. One is sales were down in the Northeast, Midwest. They were up in the West. They're obviously skewed by where the sales are because of prices. Prices in Western markets are higher than in Midwestern markets, for an example, right? New home sales come out on Friday. I think the more interesting number on the prices is going to be when Chase Schiller comes out. I think that's next week, because Chase Schiller compares the same house when it gets sold over and over again. So you get like an apples and apples price comparison.
That's a good point. One question I wanted to go back to, just to go through the market quick. Matt, you asked the question, price wise, Matt, you threw out the price on 2x4 coastal. What are the U.S. species in Western Canada? What are they pricing on certain market items into different markets? I know, talking to some of the Eastern mills today, I couldn't get a quote on very much number 3, but they didn't want to price anything out until next week, right? And so I'll set the table on this one, and then if that's the case, and this thing does get delayed for 2 or 3 weeks, there's going to be more wood that they want to get across, right? If I'm reading that right. So, Matt, to you, what are you hearing from your mills?
The only thing I've really been talking to the sawmills, and it's all Western mills. It's not the Eastern mills. 2 weeks ago, the Eastern mills were kind of on me, trying to get me to buy some stuff, but they've stopped. Right now, we're into the heart of the holiday season. The Western mills are the ones that are coming after me, but it's all small ball. It's a couple cars of this and a car of that. It's just stuff that they think they can load and get across the border.
Yeah.
That they know that I could buy. And so they want me to, I made an offer on a couple yesterday, and it was just flatly refused. I mean, it was like Greg said, I'm not going to go into the logic of it, but $20, $25, $30 counter offers on a prompt loader that you don't have to pay a tax on, you're saving $100, $1,000. I'm only trying to get a small chunk of that. And I'm really just paying what I paid. So look, I wasn't offering less than what I recently paid. I was offering the same as what I paid last week to another Canadian sawmill that wanted me to buy some prompt, 2 or 3 car deal. So, but going forward, I think that's all going to go away. Just the cost of doing business is just going to go up a little bit. And that, my message to the world is that's going to free up more hem fir and Doug fir and SPF South and ESLP and whitewood lumber to snag a little bit of that $550 to $600 Midwest, Chicago, Texas type delivered prices that won't look so good on August 10th to a BC mill, right? And then eventually, by the time we get to September, everything will sort of stabilize. The mills will know what their costs are, and they might get some relief from the government. Who knows, Russ? What do you hear about that kind of stuff? Do you feel like the BC Premier. He's out there talking about going to a quota system a couple weeks ago. Do you feel like the BC government's going to start getting behind the producers up there or not?
Well, that would be the first time in a long time the government's siding with the industry up here. But I mean, I think that was part of the overall, trade, trying to get some discussions going about a trade deal as part of this August 1st deadline. Let's throw lumber in with the mix and let's introduce quotas again. Is that got an appetite for the American side? According to the coalition, no, but maybe that worked before, I thought, for when it was around for 11 years or something like that, at the early part of the decade, or early part of the century. So that could be an option, but I think they're just now trying to throw some things on the table and see if someone bites or not, just to get some action. So, but I think the government has not really been that supportive so far of the industry, and the trade deal is more what they're looking for, some sort of a trade deal.
So, Greg, what say you about a quota system? I know the last time we discussed it, you loved the proposition of it.
I'm gonna retire. I'm not. Homie, don't play that. You know what? We're not there. I mean, unless I've got my SYP trading business ramped up and on point, I'm not in.
Well,
talk to us about the yellow pine market. I see we got midweek $5 up prints across the board. I mean, that's a killer rally in SYP right now.
Well, especially Charles, and maybe Russ, you're looking at this too. The spread between spruce and pine and 4-inch is as wide as I've ever seen it. And Greg's like, be careful because it could get a lot wider, right? So Charles, like, you look at that. What is your thought on that? What are you seeing? What are your mills telling you?
I mean, 4-inch is the discounts are gone and everything, right? 6-inch in your prime links are firming and have some premiums because there's no buildup and there's lack of supply, especially on the east side, coming from the Canford permanent curtailments and them trying to clean up those mills and what have you. So there's more Georgia wood coming east, which adds to your landed cost, right? So mills are trying to up their net return on anything that can ship to a localized market, right? And then you got 4-inch out of the central. It's still pretty inexpensive all the way back east compared to mill net prices as we sit here and have this conversation. But as far as the basis goes, I agree. I think the 4-inch basis between pine and spruce is dramatically going to increase depending on how these negotiations go and what kind of ball we're going to play between the powers that be and any sort of subsidy or whatever, if the Canadian government decides to get involved or not. That's only going to increase, and I think it's going to be a big number.
I remember the sort of the SPF discount to Southern Yellow Pine, FOB mill to FOB mill, was always about $70 cheaper for SPF FOB mill, and today it's $150 higher.
Yeah.
So it's like I say, it's way out of whack. That can't last forever.
No.
I mean, can it not last forever? I mean, if we're looking at only further curtailment of Canadian production, and I mean, other than the Canfor curtailment in the southern U.S., I haven't heard of any announced curtailment. All I've heard is that Hampton's going to build a mill. I mean, that's all I heard.
They're coming to fill the gap.
Yeah, well, but when I look at when I've been looking, we've been talking about this for weeks on the show about the price, and I'm going, and Charles, you did a great job of dissecting. Hey, here's what the log cost is at the gate, and we're going, wow. I mean, you would think that at these numbers, we'd potentially be losing a little more production, but I guess.
Charles did that on his feet. I was like, I drove home that night going, man, he's going to be tired for a week after that.
It's amazing.
That was the last time. That's the last time Russ was on.
Yeah, it was.
It's and you know what, guys? After we did that call, and remember you got me all jet lagged off of a plane the night before, and I didn't quite have my thoughts together. But the one thing we missed when we were talking on back of the envelope sawmill margins and so forth, we didn't talk about the byproducts. We missed that.
Yeah.
And so we painted a much more negative picture. So I've kind of looked at my numbers again without jet lag. And so I actually show the Southern Yellow Pine Mills making a bit of money right now, even though the prices look quite low.
I think
And
that's region specific though, Russ, because we've got a lot of byproduct consumers that don't exist anymore.
and
I mean, that's part of the reason. That's part of the reason why in South Carolina you've seen so much curtailment versus Georgia, Alabama, or the Panhandle of Florida. We've only got, as far as pulpwood buyers, we've got 2. We used to have 8.
correct.
Is there a chip market down there or not? That's a big one.
Problem. The pulp mills are all closing. And
Yep. And then as far as chips
mills
go, Inviva had a plant not too far from where Hampton site is in Hampton County, or future site, I should say. But we all know what happened there, and they kind of, dissipated, and that's kind of been a black eye in the chip market here. And then with Capstone and everybody divesting and shutting down, I mean, we had 2 IP mills. Now we only have 1, which is now rebranded Silvamo. We had Smurfit Stone box that used to buy pulpwood, but now they go recycled. Sunoco's the same way. Then you got a Domtar up by the state line. You got 2 paper mills, IP curtail, shut down 2 lines or maybe 3 lines in their Fayetteville, close to Fayetteville paper plant. And then in the mountains, Canton paper mill shut down. And all the chip mills that were up there that were feeding IP or Silvamo in the central part of the state are now gone. So
I got an idea. I got a solution to fix 2 problems at the same time. You know how like you hear on the business news that we're having trouble powering all these data centers, and like we got to build nuclear reactors and stuff because AI is taking over and it just chews up so much power. Well, guess what? The mills have a lot of chips to burn. Maybe we should just build these giant burning, turbines and just power up, baby. Screw nuclear. Let's go with wood. It's natural.
That's not a bad idea, because we've had a real big push in South Carolina for solar panels, just like in North Carolina too.
It's better than ethanol. Better than ethanol, in my opinion.
A lot better. But you have to have so much volume and surface area to actually power something of scale. But that's probably next on the list.
Charles, impressive how you just gave the details in that. And Russ, like that wasn't something. So where are the profitable mills then? And what do we think? How profitable are they at today's numbers in the South?
So one asterisk that I'll add to that too is you got different stumpage prices based on your primary and your secondary providers, right? So if you've got a mill that buys residuals, they also buy a primary pulpwood product that a sawmill is not going to buy, right? But typically in a strong saw timber market, you're going to have more sawmill competition. So your stumpage price is going to go up. So it's kind of a problem, one and the same, just of different sources, right? So if you're talking about, gatewood prices in South Carolina at, X, well, gatewood prices in Georgia, because if you drive 20 to Atlanta, you're passing 6, 7 sawmills within 30 miles of that interstate. All those guys are competing for that same stump. So they're going to have to inherently pay more money for it. You might have the secondary consumer, Huber or Madison wood product for your ply logs or what have you, but it still puts you in a situation to where you're winning in one side and you're losing on the other. And the equilibrium, in my opinion, in the current state of affairs is a net negative. But I could be wrong.
And maybe just getting back to sawmill margins, like I said, look at the U.S. South West, not so much the East. What you're talking about there, it's a little more balanced. So that's just because that's what I've always done. But that region, if you have a home for your byproducts, is profitable. It's the Canadian mills that are kind of more marginally profitable. They're making maybe a 5% margin at these current high prices. So when I look ahead, with the duties increasing by 20%, that means that to me prices probably have to increase at least 10% to 15% to keep the Canadian mills in the game. And I think Greg or Matt said it right. Things will stabilize in September-ish, and then in the fall we'll see some easing maybe of prices, and that's when curtailments will kick in as demand eases and the high cost mills in Canada are going to start to curtail. That's kind of what I see going forward.
So I've got an observation. I feel like the actual trading cash market and in the immediate future on just lumber in general is tepid, average, whatever you want to call it, boring, stuck, flatline, even maybe with a slightly downward attitude tilt towards it. I'm hearing some customers complain about things are being slow and it's getting worse. They always talk it down, but these are people I trust. I've known for a long time. On the other hand, we have in front of us directly higher cost of production, and that usually will get passed on in some shape or form to the consumer, which is us. And then this is all going to play out over a period of months. We have last year as a backdrop to compare this year to. They're very similar years in terms of the way the lumber's been, the pricing and the flow of material. Last year, the back half of the year was a surprise. It was better than expected. But what I'm hearing from my customers is they don't think that's going to happen again this year. And I'm wondering if we might be in for another surprise, if things might be a little bit better than we expect in the second half of the year. I know some people are really giddy about 2026. So let's talk about some things that might actually be positive in the next 6 to 8 months, not necessarily today. You got any ideas over there, guys?
Well, when I look at my forecast from, say, last fall, looking ahead to 2025, I was bullish at that time, thinking, interest rates are going to come down and demand's going to pick up and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's why the fourth quarter was kind of pretty strong, and there's a lot of optimism. And then sort of when Trump came in, and then all of a sudden the brakes got hit pretty hard, and then interest rates stayed high. That's when everything slowed down. So I think looking ahead, if the interest rates are going to come down, I think that's going to be a key driver, I think, of demand. But what do you guys think? Are they going to come down? Are they going to?
Interest rates are not going to come down. I mean, we have a Federal Reserve that has politicized interest rates and cut interest rates to try to get Biden elected. And now while I think Trump is wrong, he should just lay off the I'm going to fire Jay Powell or all that discussion that makes no sense whatsoever. The guy's only here for another 10 months. He's a lame duck. You're better off to go misdirection on the guy and go, yeah, you know what? You probably shouldn't cut rates. And so then when, the economy slows, we can just blame it on you because you're the worst Fed chairman we've ever had. Way better off. Let's go that direction. I mean, no, I'm not going to let you off the hook by firing you. You're going to stay there so you can own it. There's no rational, if you analyze it, reason for our rates to be as high as they are, unless it's political. And if one more pundit says that tariffs cause inflation, I am going to lose my mind. Ashley, my aura just went off, by the way, just shot up.
Your aura ring?
Little spike there.
Well,
heart monitors.
So here's, I'm kind of adding to what all you said. I think what you're going to see, Matt, and it's pretty simple. You're going to see more certainty, and that's what markets want. Because when I look at this, more confidence, certainty brings confidence, right? Because everybody knows once we get done with all the different playing rules and all that, Greg, by the way, Jared just said great point on the misdirection.
Shout out to Jared.
Which is awesome. I think you're going to have some certainty after we get all of this. What do they call it? The taco trade, where he says one thing and something else happens.
Trump always chickens out. That's taco. That's what that's what they say.
I think we're gonna have that's frontier gibberish too.
I think we're gonna have certain.
Is anybody confused as to what Greg's political leanings are yet? I'm not sure. We've been doing this for 3 or 4 years.
Can you just spell it out? Maybe he can dive further into his.
So now you see what happens when I walk into his office and say, "Hey, am I doing a satisfactory job for you?"
He's probably just going to pull some Jedi mind trick on you, like the whole, Jay Powell misdirection.
I go if you just sell cheaper, you can make it up in volume.
These are not the droids you're looking for. So look at, that's what I think. Certainty. I can't go. Because I can go out there and say, I see a lot of really good things happening right now. People just need to know the ground rules. Charles, what's your feeling on what what could happen.
I mean, monetary policy has to change, and to Greg's point, it's been weaponized. I mean, that's 100% what's happened. It's changed the rhetoric of it. The fundamentals are gone. Now we're just going to make decisions based on how we feel, right? And I think the faster we can utilize some sort of misdirection or some sort of, change in perspective, the better off we're going to be. I mean, he is a lame duck. If he's going to be out in 10 months, what are we arguing about? Because he's going to do whatever he wants to do based on how he feels, and that's evident because he dropped interest rates to try to get Biden reelected. That didn't happen. And now we're in a scenario to where, okay, tariffs are going to make things more expensive, but everybody that we have placed potential tariffs on has come back and negotiated better contracts than we've ever had in the history of those existing relationships. So the real question is, and I think goes back to the average age of home buyer, right? 38 years old. I'm 38. 38 years old, you got to have confidence to go and buy a house, that you're going to have a job and you're going to have a way to feed your kids and your dogs or whatever, right? Whatever your peace of mind is. And once that itch is satisfied, everybody's going to be much happier. Business is going to be much more prevalent, right? There's going to be more things going on, more confidence, more concrete plans moving forward, right? And that in and of itself creates a better environment overall economically.
Yeah, I would like to see a couple things here real quick. And then I have a question for Russ, but I'd like to see the big national builders focus on those smaller homes, smaller lots, get the buy to rent guys out of it, let the American consumer have those homes. There's a lot of 25 to 35-year-olds that could probably benefit from that rather than having to rent from a slumlord. So, just my personal opinion there.
Why are you calling the buy to rent guy slumlords? Come on, man.
Because I'm a jerk.
These are fine people that I happen to be invested with.
Well, they're probably some.
You're a scummy slumlord also.
No,
Greg,
but
so
no, they're probably.
Actually, I was. You know what? Ashley was my tenant when we
super conservative.
30 years ago.
He wants to kill the American dream. That's what it is. He's super conservative. But
Greg built his entire company off of Ashley's rent check.
Some of those companies are liquidity in the market right now, right? I mean,
honestly, you're 100% accurate. It's the only way it works.
So I just like the visual imagery that the word slumlord brings out for people.
J-Dog
got to paint the picture.
Matt, Westbury had a really interesting article yesterday, kind of tying back into, is the Fed independent? And he brought the corollary about, think about it, during the years of QE, when, they weren't independent from government policy. They supported it, right? In order to expand the money supply as much as they did. Yeah. They QE'd it, right? I mean that, so he brought up the point is, so I guess the Fed's only independence when it wants to be politically.
Yeah.
I'm gonna close the book on that. I'm done.
Hey, look, we know the game. It's Washington D.C. politics. They play to win. But on another note, Russ, what is the Canadian economy like right now, and what are the prospects of the Canadian economy as a whole going forward over the next 6 to 12 months, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, the Canadian economy is sort of limping along. It hasn't done great under the Trudeau era. It didn't really do anything. It didn't really grow, but right now it's kind of GDP's I think just slightly positive, but or was it negative last quarter or negative last month? I can't remember now, but it's around zero. And with all the tariffs coming that could hit Canada, we're expecting very negative growth. So a recession, mild recession at best, more of a moderate recession at worst. So not going to be a good situation. But that's until things get sort of ironed out or worked out, but depending what the tariffs are. But certainly Canada relies so much on the U.S. That we're beholden to that market, and the tariffs will impact jobs and so forth depending on the sector. So it's almost sector dependent as well.
What about your prime minister making a deal with Trump? Is that just out of the question?
Oh, I think there'll be a deal. I think that a deal's coming. It's just, it's just a matter of what the details are, right? And because it's a big deal, right? So, but I think a deal has to get worked out, and it will. And it's just a bunch of posturing right now as to what the numbers are going to be.
I think the negative impact of what the tariffs will ultimately be is grossly overstated. And it's kind of back to Ashley's, like, all we need is the certainty. Whatever that is, I think the best thing for the Canadian economy is get this deal cut so you know what it is. And then I think the economy would just be great, be just fine, because it's going to grow with us. A North American economy will grow together. Strong
question, Greg. If let's say hypothetically Trump and the Canadian PM, is it Carney?
Carney, yep.
Carney made a deal, got the trade groups together. They came up with a big,
big beautiful
shiny, big beautiful bill. Hey, we're going to do this thing, and then come out and announce this new trade agreement that's just going to be like great for both countries. Would that legally supersede the existing coalition?
Great point. You read my mind.
Eradicate it?
Would have absolutely nothing to do with that. That is
they can't eradicate
separate action that is locked up. I mean,
that's a whole nother ball of worms that they can't touch.
Well, you can do anything you want.
That's my understanding.
I'm curious.
Russ,
look, that would be a big chip for if I was the premier of Canada, I'd want some relief on that new 20-30% you're already getting from us before we start agreeing to 15% border taxes. So that considering that Canada has an economy that really runs off of finance and natural resources, that's a big chip. That's a lot of money.
USMCA compliant trade is exempt. That represent what, Russ? Like 65% of US Canada trade right now?
I think it's or more. I can't remember the exact number. I think it's more. Yeah. But then there also is questions about renegotiating the Kuzma agreement from what it is today. So that's the other part of the negotiation, right? Is that going to be also a separate negotiation or part of this negotiation? So it's quite complex. And like I say, the bulk of our goods are sold to the U.S. and we're really a factory, for the U.S. and always have been. And I guess that's become very, very clear and very evident. I know talking earlier, we talked about, more lumber from Canada will stay in Canada, but, BC only exports 87% of its production is exported, to all markets. Only 13% stays in Canada. So there's no market for BC in Canada. But they will push more wood, I think, into the east, and that'll probably push more lumber into the U.S. from the east or curtailments, right? But the Canadian market's very small for our industry, so we really can't do much in the Canadian market.
I think I think everybody should look at the Canadian timber supply as like the equivalent of our petroleum reserve in the United States. If we want to really support good value and cheaper home building and better valuations, we should look at all that timber up there, in my opinion, as an asset and not as a liability. If we really truly want to make homes more affordable, and I don't agree with the argument of that lumber is just a small part of it. It's part of it, right? And I mean, I think we should all be more understanding of that, in my opinion. I see both sides, but I think I feel that it's one way at this point.
But Ash, that gets to my point is that lumber prices are low. They're not high. They're really low. So
it's not friendly environment. I agree.
I mean, it's like all of this stuff that's going on, but yet the prices are still low. So what is that telling us, right? I mean, that's price is the final thing that tells you what the meaning of is.
I'm listening and validating. That was what I was told to do in my life.
What?
That's
oh my gosh!
That's on my
dashboard. Can you bring a therapist into this pod, please?
That's on the dashboard of my car.
That's good. Good advice. What'd you say? Hey,
One comment I was going to say, you've heard the old story about how you make a small fortune in the lumber business. You heard that
Start with
story?
it.
Start with a big
Start with a
one.
big fortune. Yeah.
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 So in our so Greg and Ashley and myself been for like 30 to 40 years in this business, and there's been 2 great years because of a pandemic and supply chain shortages.
I think there was
there you
3.
go.
And I do, I do tell everyone how much I miss COVID. Those were the best years of my life, for sure. And that includes getting cancer during it, right? So that tells you how good it is.
You probably share that at the dinner table with your family too, don't you, Greg? I just want you guys to know.
I share it with everybody. Hang on a second, I got something for
Greg
you guys.
shares it with me. Greg shares it with me. He says you should have started here 3 years earlier. And I'm like,
this is what my family got me.
What's it say?
Ask me about my podcast.
That would fit right in the streets of Portland for sure.
Oh, for sure.
I'm still processing Charles being 38 years old only.
I know. He only looks like he's 37.
Oh, thanks, Matt. I appreciate that.
He reads at the 42-year-old level, though.
I'm gonna just be quiet. If you know something good to say nothing at all.
I have something good to say. I've been married for almost 30 years. This is a personal thing, but my wife it's her birthday today. So I'm not going to tell you how old she is, but
happy birthday, Mrs. Beamer.
Angela is her name, and she never listens to the show, so she'll never hear this, but yeah, happy birthday, Angie.
There you go.
Happy birthday.
Now you gotta have to you have to timestamp this for him, Ash, and send the clip.
So tell us one admirable thing every day you think about your wife.
Oh my God.
Oh no. I
oh my God, we're going into therapy now.
I gotta go.
I'm grateful that my wife is not a spendaholic. She's really tight with the budget, and I mean, I think about that a lot. I've got friends and family whose wives can't wait to go blow money on stuff that they don't need. And it puts a lot of pressure on their marriages. And I've never had that ever. I'm totally grateful that my wife she's tight. She's like the bank.
So are you the spender then?
So you're the spendthrift in the family. I get it. There's always
I am. I'm the one that says, "Hey, let's go on a vacation, Greg." You know what that's like.
Well, hey, Russ, just circling back to you. What do you have coming up at Russ Taylor Global? Do you have in the upcoming future here?
Quiet over the summer. I got some travels in the fall, and but no real big events. I mentioned I was going to do last time I was going to do a press release, and the one I was thinking about, we decided to redo it, so that'll be coming out Monday. Just another bit of news and stuff like that. So, and that's really the only thing I've got planned for the summer in the short term. But yeah.
And what I'll do is I'll make sure I attach your email address for the different podcasts below so people can reach out to you.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, we've had some calls, Ash. People are very impressed by, the advertisers when they listen on Spotify now. And I just want to give a shout out. I want to thank Spotify for all the support that they give to our pod.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still a niche pod, but we're looking for bigger and bigger things all the time. And having guests like Russ on only help us with that, with giving us that international exposure.
That's right.
Definitely giving us a lot more credibility. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, Russ, again, thank you. Thank you for coming on again. We always look forward to you bringing the details to what we're talking about. But Charles, good details today too. Matt, make sure you take your wife out for her birthday today. And Greg, I mean, thanks for everything you do for me and all you guys showing up every week.
Thanks, guys. It's been
have
great.
A great one.
All right,
good.
Good to see you, Russ.
We'll see you.